Marketing made easy for another Tuesday night, April 2023. Hello, 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 hello. My name is Joey Ragona, and I am here with my good buddy Scott Vogel, which I will bring in a second. And we are here to just give you information, help you out, answer questions, guide you through in order to build an epic business. That's what it's all about, but doing it in a heart centered way and doing it in such a calm, simple, relaxed way. That's what it is all about. Marketing made easy. There's my friend Scott Vogel. How you doing, Scott?
Hello there, Joey. Great. Like you packed that introduction with like everything in there. Heart centered and purpose and calm and build a business in the right way and success. And it's like, yeah, cool stuff. And by the way, if you're watching live, put a hashtag live. If you're watching the replay, hashtag replay. Wherever you are, the Facebooks, the YouTubes, the LinkedIn's, the Twitters, or whatever, give us a heart, a like, a thumbs up. Let them know that what we're doing has some value in this ether of the inner multi-web verse. And of course, the Heart Centered Marketing Club, Joey, you always love to post a link if you really want to get in on probably one of the best groups on the Facebook web. That's really for heart-centered people with support and guidance from this dude right here, Joey. Jump in, get it, and join it. So in
Thanks,
there
man.
doing cool stuff. You just do a great job supporting people, helping people, and there's nothing to buy in there. There's no sales routines, processes, emails to get in my stuff. Just go in and get some help. Anyway, Joey, great to be here as always on Tuesday nights. So thanks for having me.
You are welcome. I thought I've been talking a lot this week or last couple of weeks around productivity, goal setting, that kind of stuff. And we're already in Q2 of 2023. And I always do 90-day check-ins and things like that with my coaching tribe, with Academy. Even with Atlas, we talk a little bit about this stuff. And so I figured today that I would share some of the insights that I got from the 12-week year. It's something that I incorporated back in 2017, I think it was. Yeah, 2017, because I'm looking at the slide or the date of the actual keynote, because I do have a keynote here that I took from my VIP mastermind that I want to share. So I've been doing this since 2017. Have you heard of the 12-week year? Do you know it?
Um, I I'm going to say no and let you go with it.
Okay, so you haven't heard of it. Um, so the 12-week year, we'll go through this anyway, but and if anybody else listening, if they've heard of it or they've tried it, the reason why, I'm not sure if this comes up in the slides or not, but I'll share why I do this. Because for the longest time, when I was doing the regular goal setting stuff, like the 12-month thing, what do you want to do in this, next 12 months? I found that my clients were never getting to the goals. Like things would just get in the way. And even though we were still doing 90-day check-ins, all those check-ins were always about reasons why they weren't even on the progress. It was like new goals. It was all kinds of different new things. And then I read the 12-week year, and the 12-week year basically is condensing 1 year into 12 weeks. So basically, you have 4 years in 1 year, and it's all about focus. So why don't we do this? Why don't we just get to the slides, and I'll explain what this is, and we can talk about it. And I'd love to hear from the tribe as well, because this is really about productivity, and it's just really getting more done faster and really understanding how to focus. Because one of the things that I find hard for me, and still is, this is focus. And I know that a lot of my tribe is struggling with focus as well. And this was one of the ways that I was able to at least push them in the right direction to start getting things done. But it does really come back to everybody else's or your personal discipline. So this is a new model, like I said. It is about 12 weeks worth of planning, and each set of 12 weeks that we do, they stand on their own. So it's not a continuous thing. But what happens is when you do this, when you say, I've only got 12 weeks to get this thing done, it creates this urgency. It creates it because it's an end to something. And it doesn't mean that it can't be conjoined, like joined up to like a bigger goal, but it is a complete end. And I don't know about you, Scott, but like I'm constantly bouncing around from like one goal to another and this and that. So this allows me to like focus on one big thing. And I got an example of this too. And not, maybe not on the slides, but I will remind me to share an example of this because I know I have
Okay.
it on a worksheet that I give to everybody.
And by the way, me bounce around, never happens.
This is the cool thing about this. Like, you might look at this right now and think, okay, that's great. It's just like the 90-day quarterly planning, but it is not. It's not the same thing because this is called the 12-week year. And this is what it looks like. You act as though the 12 weeks are a full year. Weeks 1 to 4, weeks 5 to 8, weeks 9 to 12. So you have like three separate chunks of time that you're building into this one goal, or maybe two, but usually it's around one goal. And here's why it works because, like I've noticed, annual plans, they're not really action based. They're more of, I want to make, whatever, $100,000, or I want to grow my list and whatever it is. But they're not action based. It's more of a result. And it's difficult to predict the actions that you need for those things to happen. And that's what I was finding. Is like, great, what are you doing to get those things done? And they weren't really focused on what needs to happen. So annual plans, they tell you what has to be achieved, but it doesn't specifically tell you how to do it. And it's usually this collection of just ideas. Here's what I'm thinking of doing, and we just randomly go into doing something. So we're just building our business by chance. And so that's where I was not getting the results for my clients, and I thought there was something wrong with me. And it was like, no, like I'm not even getting stuff done here. We have to look at a different way for productivity, which is the reason why I really like this. So this is the whole thing that we're doing is based on three simple fundamentals. It's pretty easy: accountability, commitment, and greatness in the moment. So I want to break those down. But before I do, I want to share this quote from Morin and Lennington, which is, accountability is not consequences, but ownership. Accountability is not consequences, but ownership. So we take ownership of what we're actually trying to do. So let's look at accountability and break it down for a little bit. Recognizing that there are no have-tos. That's one of the biggest aha moments I got from reading it. And I don't have to do these things. Have-tos are things that we hate to do, but we do it anyway because we have to. So you always have a choice of what you want to do or what you don't want to do. And instead, what the 12-week year helps you do is choose. These are what I choose to do. Just like when we're talking in Atlas, right? Just like we're talking about marketing, just like we're talking about dream clients. This is what I choose to do. We just talked about it before we got on air, the 4% multiplier. What are you choosing to do? And there's always a choice. And a lot of times, me included, we choose the wrong things. We're choosing distractions. And we're not focused because there's a lot of stuff happening that is just moving us away from the goal. So that's why the accountability piece is so important, because we have to be accountable to ourselves. And we got to give some love here to our crew. Hey, Collie, good to see you. Nice to see you. And Jeffrey's in the house. Nice to see you. Thank you for being here. And I'm wondering if Jeffrey and Collie and whoever else is here, I know there's a few more people live, if you have read the 12-week year or you are familiar with the 12-week year, let us know in the chat. I'd love that. So this is, like I said, about choosing to do things, and then ultimately productivity and achievement is about the actions, the results, and the consequences that you choose. So everything that you choose has a consequence, even if it's a negative consequence. And the only accountability that truly exists is the self-accountability. This is where, that's a big one. And we can talk about this, Scott, because we always look for accountability, which is cool to have an accountability partner and all that. But ultimately, it comes down to us. It comes down to, like, am I willing to be disciplined enough to go do the thing that I said I was going to do? What do you think about that? and we got
Which
never
part?
heard of it.
You
Well,
just
the self.
boatload of stuff, Joey.
Okay, so I'm asking about the self accountability. What do you think about that concept?
I am
That it all comes down
fully
to you, no matter how
you.
accountable you are to me.
I agree totally 100%. It comes down to me because self accountability, yeah, it's great to have an accountability person and to do accountability pomodoros. But at the end of the day, you have to say, this is what I really want to do. And here's the time I'm going to carve out to get it done. It's got to be self accountability in online entrepreneurship and business building, in nutrition and health. It's great to have coaches and accountability people, but at the end of the day, I am in full agreement that it's about self accountability.
Lorna says she was recently introduced to a theory on 4 different accountability styles. It's interesting and explains a lot about me. Maybe you can share a little bit more about that. My might accountability really be discipline? I guess it is discipline. It is discipline, but from my understanding or from my experience, Lorna, when we look at accountability outwards, expecting someone else to give us accountability to make us do something, it's impossible for somebody to make you do something you don't want to do. That's the whole point. It's self accountability. So they can be there and you can report to them and say, here's what I did. But when it comes down to it, no one can make you do the stuff that you want to do, that you don't want to do. So if you don't really want to do it, Scott, you had a thought?
Yeah, thank you. How'd you know? Definitely. I remember 2 years ago when I took a private yoga class with my teacher, and I started this nutrition program, and she said to me, "You're going to weigh yourself every day," and I'm like, "I've never weighed," and I stopped talking, and she said, "You're going to post about it," and I'm like, I just stopped it, and I realized what she was doing was making me become accountable to self accountable. And so that just brought that up. And Joey, you asked me to remind you that you were going to share an example. Is that from here or earlier? You just asked me to remind you about it.
Yeah, maybe just remind me again because I want to give an example of like how the 12-week year kind of works with a big
Okay,
goal.
go.
With a big goal, okay? So the choose to are comes down to like a couple of important questions. And here they are. Write these down. Does this activity make me money or not? And if I keep doing these daily habits, where will I be in 10 years? Does this activity make me money or not? If I keep doing these daily habits, where will I be in 10 years? So let's talk a little bit about commitment because a commitment is a personal promise you make to yourself. And this is why people have a lot of trouble with the word commitments because deep down they know that they're breaking a promise to themselves when they don't go follow through. And it's accepting no excuses, only results. And by the way, we've talked about this before, that results doesn't necessarily mean that it's a positive, that it's like I went from 0 to 100,000 or I made 10,000 this month. Well, if you made zero money this month and you're still at zero, what are the result? Like you still got results if you're focused on something, and what are those? Would you agree?
Totally and completely. It could be you built a tribe, you built a list, you vetted people, you curated people, you started a show, you did a podcast,
But
you
what if you got
you
none
did.
of that? What if you got absolutely zero?
If you got absolutely zero and did nothing,
No, you tried to build a tribe, didn't work. You started a
okay,
podcast and nobody showed up and it didn't work. Like you know what I mean?
right,
It's
and you
it's
found
look
what did work.
right. That's what I'm trying to get
Yeah,
at.
like the
Right.
Edison thing, why how do you feel about failing to invent the light bulb, whatever, 10,000 times? Well, I figured out 10,000 ways that it wouldn't work. Yeah. So I learned that. We all learn it. And I had an expensive learning lesson a year or so ago. And but I look back at some of what I'm doing now and saying, yeah, all those things that I did gave me the ability to do all the things I do. It
Right.
wasn't. So, like the example. So you built a podcast, didn't work. Try to build a tribe, it didn't work. But the activities lead you to, well, what's the next piece that's going to work? So go.
Yeah, speaking of podcast, this just came up because you're talking about podcasts. So I started a podcast, I don't know how many years ago, went full throttle for like, I don't know, 15 or 20 episodes and just sat there, didn't do anything. And so I'm like, okay. And then the podcast thing like really took off. And again, these are distractions a lot of times because we all know, like, hey, you should have a podcast. You should have a YouTube channel. You should have all these things. And if I would have been focused doing all of those things, I probably wouldn't be where I am today, which so I'm glad that I stopped it. But I don't discount how valuable it is. Okay. And so then I'm like, all right. And I have this great, I bought domains like you and I we buy domains like all the time. I bought this domain, I don't know how many years ago, thinking of this would be a great book or podcast thingy, and just sat there. And then just this recent couple of weeks, I'm like, you know what? Now's the time to launch this thing with this epic name because of the relationships that I've built and the connections and all these things that now it can all come together. And so, yeah, now is the right time. So I just wanted to bring that up, and anybody listening that, we're trying to do all these things, and that's what throws us off. That's what the 12-week year is all about. Because when you break it down, if we get time to actually, I doubt we'll do that, but if you get time to really look at what you're doing in those 12 weeks, there's a lot of stuff going on. And the more you put in, the worse it is. Because, and I don't want to spoil it. It'll probably come up of like how it works. Yeah, let's just go back to that, and it'll come up of the reason why I'm saying this. So commitment is about accepting no excuses, only results, and it's about doing things we would not ordinarily do. That's what commitment is. And so you're no longer asking yourself, how do I go do this thing? You're asking, if you're asking, how do I go do this? Not if I do this. So commitment is accountability projected into the future. I love that line. Commitment is accountability projected into the future. And you're taking ownership of a future action or result. That's what commitment is. Right? We talk about this. We talk about how you started your businesses, or how Atlas began, or how Right Marketing Copy was an Umbo, and all these things. And so it was a commitment about a future result. It's accountability projected into the future, right? I'm going to do this. I'm going to build a cohort with amazing people and humans, and this is what I'm going to teach them, and I'm going to build a tribe around that and help people 5x their money. And even more. By the way, did you hear like Chaim's amazing thing? Update?
No, what is it? Share it.
You didn't hear that? Oh my gosh. And dude went from, he's not even a year old in Atlas, and he's already approaching $500,000 in revenue.
Wasn't that like a week ago or something?
Well, I told you that in confidence because I knew there was coming up in terms of yeah, but it was publicly announced yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Or Monday. But yeah.
I've been buried in some projects the last few days, so I really haven't been much in what's going on in the ether world here. So
there you go. Yeah, I'm
that's
super proud.
And Joey, I'm gonna connect the dots here, because when you brought the topic up and you started talking about it, and I'm like, yeah, well, that's what the 12 weeks of Atlas were all about. And that's why it was so effective for me, because I was like, for some reason, and I don't know why, I was able to, and you remember back then, I was like, well, what if I only had 3 months to live? And I had to do what would I do in that? And it's like, well, I would learn this thing and build something. And so, there's something energetically that I didn't really understand about the 12 weeks. And now we're talking about it many months later. And it's just making so much sense coming back to Atlas, that it's like, wow, okay, that was a 12-week period, and it was so focused, and as you say it now, for somebody that may be watching saying, well, I'm not really, You look at the 12-week cohort of Atlas, you look at a 12-week, and it just, there's probably somebody on here is listening is like, yeah, there's something with the cycles of the moon, or there's something in play that I don't know. But it just, you prove it, you proved it, and now you're supporting it, not for Atlas's sake. It's like,
Right.
yeah, well, do my Atlas. It's more about, it just makes so much sense. And I'm going to just say, I love commitment, accountability projected into the future, because that's what, when I look at it and go, okay, I committed to Atlas, I was being accountable to the future, to future self, future Scott. We had those conversations back then. And this 12 weeks is just really cool. So continue on.
Yeah, like, and you're right. I love that line because commitment is saying, like you did at the beginning of Atlas, which was, I'm not going to do anything else except for this for the next 12 weeks. And I'm
Right.
also going to take off every other hat and be a student of this and blah, blah, blah. Like, you made a commitment and you stuck through it. And I honor that because that it's hard to do. It's very hard to do any kind of a commitment. But that's what the accountability in the future means, that you're showing up every week, you were doing the homework every week, and the result came later. And
Yeah.
but it was a commitment to be accountable to yourself, to show up, to go through the thing. I love it.
Powerful.
Greatness in the moment. What does this mean? This means that success and greatness are not achieved when the goal is reached. I'll say that again. Success and greatness are not achieved when the goal is reached. It's when you make the choice to do what is necessary to become successful. When you make the choice to become successful and do what is necessary, that is what success and greatness in the moment means. The result are the confirmation of your success. Results are the confirmation of your success. I'll bring up Lorna's comment, and maybe we can talk a little bit about that too. The four tendencies: Gretchen Rubin, upholder, respond readily to both other and inner expectations. Questioners, question all expectations. Obligers, respond to outer expectations but struggle to meet inner expectations. Rebels, resist all expectations. The four tendencies of accountability to both. So help me out. Why is this related? I'm sure it's related somehow. I just can't connect the dots.
I'm going to remind you, Joey, while she's okay. Here she goes. Um,
Oh, commitment is the accountability projected into the future. Okay. What were you going to remind me of, Scott?
you asked me to remind you again about an example, or do I remind you later?
I can give an example of 4 weeks then. Okay. Um, actually, I'm going to pull up my Google Doc so I make sure that I get this right. Because what I did when I started doing this was, you know me, I like to merge greatness into like
Yeah.
a simplified system. And that's what I did with the 12 weeks. So what I'm going to share is not mine, but it is, I guess, my system because I've combined the two things. Let me just pull it up. Okay, yeah, I'll just share this because this will. Actually, can I share this? I can't share this because I don't have that screen. All right. Anyway, Brendan Burchard also did something to the degree of like four major moves throughout the year. Like when you have this big goal, there's four major moves that you do to go toward the goal. And so my brain started thinking, okay, wait a minute, that's kind of what this 12-week goal, 12 weeks thing is as well. So what are the major moves that you need to do to get to a goal? So where's the example here? Okay. So let's say that you want to make $1 million in revenue. And the first, you break that down into four big chunks, right? Which is the 4 12-week years. or 12-week chunks of the year. So, what is the first major move of making $1 million? And it's a big overall bucket. Just what is the thing that you think would come to mind that to make $1 million in 12 weeks? What do you need to do? Just one thing. Any ideas?
Oh, to make $1 million in 12 weeks?
No, in a year.
Okay, so in a
What's the
year it's a
first
million.
thing that has to happen? And I know I'm putting you on the spot, but
Well,
anyway,
it's okay. The first thing that has to happen is if I want to make $1 million in those 4 12-week years, is I've got to decide what it is I'm going to offer to make that.
right on.
That's the first
So,
thing. Well, okay, granted, wait, hold on. Obviously, dream clients in there, but
well, all of that is there, but it's like, what's the big
right,
goal or move in the 12 weeks? You hit the nail on the head. What am I going to offer? Basically, create the product.
correct.
Create the thing that I'm going to sell to make $1 million, right? It wouldn't be I got to start my YouTube channel. I got to like all these other things. Like, no, create the product. And whatever that means, it could be also curating the tribe, it could be whatever. Those things can go in there. But it's like, well, I got to do YouTubes, I got to do this, and I got to buy lights, and I got to buy. No, that's where we get distracted. So it is, right? Build the product. Then the next three, well, I just kind of foreshadowed it. The next threes are all the same, which is
Well,
sell
sell it.
$335,000 worth of product.
335. I thought it was a quarter of a million 4 times, or did I miss something? Or is
Well,
it?
335,000 times 3, I think is a million, isn't it?
Oh, it's 3 12 weeks. 12, I thought it's four
Yes,
chunks. It's
but see
three.
the first 12 you're not selling anything.
Got it. Okay, thank you. So
That's the
yeah, okay,
point.
333, 333. Yeah, okay, got it. So the first
330,
12,
so
got it.
that's the concept. Like that's where like we're trying to get our head around it. We're trying to do all these things. Okay, I got to create a product. I got to get customers. I got to sell some stuff. And no, the first if you want to make $1 million and you got no product whatsoever, the very first thing that you need to do is figure out what you're going to sell and create that product. Or start your cohort or whatever it is. Like in our case, like get the beta going, whatever. So in our case, we kind of break that rule because we are selling something that we get paid for right up front. But in
Right.
general, for most people, when this was started back in 2017, I wasn't doing betas, so that's why this example is here. Is no, just focus on what are you going to create, have the product ready to go, and then you focus the next 3 years, 12 weeks, like chunks of 12, selling. Does that make sense? It's just
Total.
simplified. Then you break down those 12 weeks in order to say, well, what is it going to take to sell 335,000 in this 12-week chunk? What's it going to take to sell the next 335,000 in this next chunk? That could be I'm going to start a podcast in the first 12 weeks and get guests and offer and all of that because you've already got the thing built, right? And all I'm going to do is start my podcast. In this one, I'm going to start my YouTube channel, but the podcast is still going. See what I'm saying? It's just simplified. Any input, questions, clarity from you or the crew?
As you were talking about, the building stage of it, it just makes so much sense because you sit there and you do what needs to get done first before you end up having to. And I think that gives you permission in a way. It's kind of like I built 3 restaurants. And the first one, it took like 6 months to build. Obviously, I wasn't feeding anybody or making any money. And another one took 6 weeks to flip. The third one, whatever. During that period of time, there was no selling, there was no money coming in because you had to build it. And it's the same thing here, only, gosh, hundreds of thousands of dollars in many months in that. No, we're not talking about that here. So I
Yeah.
really appreciate this taking the brick and mortar and looking at it here. And that's another thing too that we talk about is what does it take to, and I think it's important that that first year is what you talked about. And I'll use Atlas. So it would be, I'm going to take Atlas and learn how to do this thing so that then in the next 3 years, I could start my YouTube channel or my podcast or whatever and build a tribe and do whatever. So you go. I like this.
Cool. You're gonna like what's coming up too. This is it as we scale it down or zoom in on it, it gets really wacky, really good. Lorna says, "I'll try to connect the dots to dots connected for me. I'm an obliger. According to the quiz, I will be accountable to other people before I'm accountable to myself." Thank you, Lorna. Okay, that makes
Oh,
more sense. So you're accountable
that
to other
makes
people. Yes, you need to be encouraged by other people. Cool. Yeah, if you recognize, I guess, your what were they called, tendency, accountability tendency, that helps you. But in the end, really, would you agree, Lorna, that you have to still be accountable to yourself? Because if you're not accountable to yourself, what's the good? Okay, so let me look at this. Results or confirmation. So now I want to share with how this kind of works. So we focus on two key areas, and those contain specific actionable tactics that must be completed to achieve the goals. And so this way you live proactively instead of reactively. And this is what I was coming up against all the time, not only for myself, but watching clients, because I would be frustrated when because we only got together every quarter, like in a live mastermind. And I would be completely frustrated by saying, you said this like 3 months ago. You haven't done anything. You're telling you that I remember a couple of them actually would come in with brand new plans and we would spend their whole focus session writing out their entire new plan. And at the end of it, I'm like, I wrote it down. We've got like 10 minutes left to do strategy. I'm like, I just kind of went with it here, but what happened to the one we just wrote? Like, there's nothing there. And then there would be all kinds of different reasons and excuses why. And I'm not blaming anybody. Just there was no action plan built out from day one. And so you're no longer reacting to distraction triggers because that happens every single day. And distraction triggers are stuff like phone rings, emails, and knocks at the doors, and all these crazy little things. There's nowhere to hide. You're either performing or you are not, right? So like, go back to that example, Scott. If you said, or we both said to each other, okay, look, these 12 weeks, I'm going to create a program. At the end of the 12 weeks, you either did it or you didn't. There's nothing. Like, you either were productive or you weren't productive, right? It's very easy to monitor. What did you
yeah.
do? Same as if I want to sell 335,000. Did you or didn't you? And why didn't you? Right? It's so easy rather than waiting for the end to say. So imagine this. Even just those two goals of saying in January, what's the goal for this year, Scott? I'm going to create a product and make $1 million. Okay, that's it. Just those two things you put on your 12-year or your 1 year goal. Everything changes. Would you agree?
Totally and completely. And I'll use this word, simplicity. Yeah. Just create a product and make $1 million. That's it. Okay.
Yeah, but you
What'd you
won't get
do?
it done. Like, in those 12 weeks, you won't get it done. Or sorry, that
Right.
1 year, you won't get it done. Because there's no end except for the 12 and like a year from now, right? In January, and it's too far into the future and you can't predict it.
Yeah.
So you're saying,
Right.
okay, great. I'm going to create a product this year and make $1 million. Well, it's probably going to take you 6 months to get started on your product. Then you're going to go, well, I only got 6 months now. How am I going to make $1 million? And like, so many things come into play. Whereas if you say, you want to make $1 million this year, what's the first step? Well, I need something to sell. Okay, then let's create something to sell.
Yep.
Cool. Jeffrey, you want to
Cool.
read this one, Scott?
Sure. What you focus on expands. What I hear is that you focus on one strategy at one 12-week period. then each 12-week segment will build and compound on the previous ones.
Yes, Jeffrey, that's right. Yeah, that's the way to do
Perfectly
it.
said. Yep, that's, yeah.
That's how you do it. So now, Lorna says, want to read that one, Scott?
Yes, 100% responsible for my thoughts and my actions. Now that I understand why I will do for others before myself, it's my responsibility to implement changes or systems to be responsible for myself. Exactly.
I
Yep.
love it.
Great. Well said, Lorna.
I love the self realization stuff. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's
So here are the core elements of how this happens. It's vision, it's planning, and we won't have enough time to go through all of these. It's process control, it's measurement, and it's time use. And a vision is a pipe dream without a plan. A vision is a pipe dream without a plan. So I see a lot of people have that where they're visionaries. Here's what I want to do, but they don't have a plan in place. And my job is to help them create the plan, even though I still have trouble with, the bigger plans and all the stuff, because I know it's going to change. Because I've been through this so many times with 12-month goals, never really getting anywhere, and then moving it down to this system and seeing the results happen. So my job is to you've got a great vision. Instead of trying to plan all that out, let's plan the next 3 months and worry about it later. But most people with a vision, they like to plan the entire plan and they never get started anywhere. Where this way, it's what's the first thing that's going to happen? I love your vision of making $1 million this year from nothing. What's the first thing that needs to happen, right? And it satisfies me personally. This is just how it worked for me too. Me as a coach, being the person that I am, to say, let's get started now. Let's get off this table because we've whiteboarded enough, and let's go start implementing something. And it also gives the visionary the plan, at least into the future, to say, here's what I'm building toward. So I'm giving them a little bit of chunk to say, here's what we're going to do for the next 12 weeks. Would that make you happy? Yes. As opposed to trying to go, let's plan out the entire year, week by week, minute to minute. Any ideas?
It will just make total sense. I was just writing it down, and what you're presenting, it just makes too much sense to get rid of all the noise and the distractions. And what are you going to do for 3 months? I'm going to build something. Okay, good. Next. What are you going to do now? I'm going to sell it. Good. Okay, next. I love it. It's just, yeah, the simplicity of this is mind boggling. That makes any sense.
It does. I'm just going through some of the slides here to get to the point where I want to look at like kind of how to do this, just so I can share this.
Joey, as you're looking through it, anybody that's listening, I believe, can simply say to themselves, I want to make $1 million. Yeah, who doesn't want to make $1 million in a year? Okay. What I got to do? Well, I got to build a product in the first year, 12 weeks. Okay. That's it. Yep. And then the next 3 years, you're going to sell it. Okay. How much you got to make? I got to make this much. I got to make $5,000 a day in order to do that. Okay. Cool. Let me go build the thing first. And I kind of find it very interesting and enticing.
Very cool. Okay, I think I've got here. So let's look at this. This is steps to creating a vision, and like the 12-week plan. I think this is what I wanted to do. Yeah. So the 12-week plan looks like this. It's start with identifying the goals you want to achieve. So you brainstorm the thing, and like I said, the more you add, the worse it is. So you identify 2 to 3 things that will have the greatest impact in your 12 weeks. That's why I'm saying that whenever someone gives me their 12-week plan and they've got all of these things going on, it's way too much already. It's like, you got to slow down. If you want to make $1 million, we'll just keep using that example. If you want to make $1 million, and you're looking at creating a product, starting a YouTube channel, I don't know, doing a podcast and all these other things, because you're thinking that's what's going to sell, and you could be absolutely right. It's way too much. Like you just, I'm not going to say you can't do it, right? But would you agree that it's pretty hard to build a program, research, like whatever it is, build the program, and also start and be consistent with your YouTube and your podcast all in 12 weeks?
It's not doable for a multitude of reasons. And the biggest reason, Joey, I believe, is you don't know yet what you're going to do out there in your 4% multiplier, social omnipresence, prefluence, whatever we want to call it, time. And you're probably wasting it without knowing first, doing the research and having the conversations with dream clients as you're building the thing, not asking them for their input and feedback, but asking them about their lives, their situations, and their chats, their pains, and realizing as you're building it, okay, this is how I probably could promote it. Or, you know what? I'm learning really where people are talking about it who have the problem. And it gives us that time to really find where they are and what's going on rather than, okay, I'm going to go out on YouTube. Why? Because a lot of people on YouTube. Well, I'm going to do Facebook. Why? Because Facebook got cool groups. Well, I'm going to do TikTok. Why? Because that's the great. And instead of, okay, I just built this thing. And as I was building it, I was talking about it. And I encourage everybody as they're building is to talk about it because you do that. We do that. Hey, Joey, I'm playing with this thing. What do you think? Scott, I'm playing with this thing. And we put it out there. Then, once it's being built and ready, this just makes more and more sense as we're talking about it. So go.
Thanks. So we're identifying the 2 to 3 things that have the greatest impact on those 12 weeks. And I'll just keep using the building a product example, or even if it was just building your cohort. What are the three? What are the things, the tactics that you need to do to achieve the goals? This is where the actions come in. Tactics are the daily to dos, and this is really important. So if you're going to let's for example use the you want to do research on your audience. You don't know enough about your audience. You want to get the right words and phrases and all these things. This is where the 12 weeks condensed is so powerful, because you're saying, okay, I've got 12 weeks to create a product. Well, I'm going to spend this week only on research. Like, that's the to do. Okay, so that week is actually, and here's where the mind-blowing thing comes in, that week is relative or equals actually a month of time. Think about what I just said. When you waste a week in the 12-week period, you're wasting a month of time, because it's 3 times, right? You know what I mean? It's 3 months, so you get what I'm talking about. Okay,
Yep.
so think about that. So now you're giving yourself a month's worth of research only in a week's time, and that's the only thing you focus on. If that's all you did, you will basically have all the research. Well, I shouldn't say all, but real close to having a lot of great research, marketing, all that kind of stuff. If all you did was spend that 1 week, quote unquote, a month, doing the research to get your product. Because then the next 11 weeks, you're not doing that anymore. Or you might have a 10%, but that's not the focus anymore. With me?
Totally with you all the way, Joey. I'm typing this stuff down
Oh,
because
okay.
I've been. No, I'm looking at it and doing it. And again, the simplification of, okay, yeah, what do I got to do first? I got to learn about my audience and if the product that I'm thinking about. Well, let me spend a month, AKA a week, doing research. And yeah, I can get 90% of it over time, of course, years. We learn more about copy and dream client languaging. But this just makes, again, sense so that you've got now 11 weeks. And if each week was a month and you chunked it and go, okay, this week I'm going to do this, instead of, okay, Today I'm going to go play on Facebook, and then I'm going to write emails, and I'm going to work on the website, and then I'm going to do some research, then I'm going to talk to some people, and I'm going to have a discovery call, and then it's like, what you get done today? Oh, all these things. What you get accomplished? Nothing. Okay, so
Yeah. So
yeah,
what is that? I'm sure now that I'll bring this up. Like you've heard me say this a billion times when people talk about like within Atlas, especially. How do I know what to say? When I'm talking about research? What do I always say? If you just spent a week doing this research and that's all you did for the next week, right? Where do you think it comes from? It comes from this knowledge of knowing that, okay, I'm not going to go into explaining the 12-week year to them, but this is where it is. Like, so I know that that's worth basically a month's worth of research if that's all they did. If they spent 80% of their day just doing that for one
yeah.
week.
Again, Joe, if you looked at that, and let's just say we spent 1 week and we went into YouTube and looked at all the channels relevant to what we're thinking about doing. And we just read all the comments and saw what was going on. And then we went into Facebook and looked at a couple of groups. And then we did some research. And then we looked at some websites and we read people's stuff in this. My gosh, by the end of the week, you would like know more about that industry, about your than probably most anybody. Why?
Yep.
Nobody does that. I
Yep.
used to hire a dude to go do all my research, and he'd come back with keywords and everything and this and that. And then I'd have somebody else do it, and we'd bring all this back. And most people like, yeah, I did a few keyword researches, and now I'm ready to go. And so, brilliant.
Thank you.
Onward, upward.
Jeffrey says, I have learned that we always overestimate what we can do in the short term, and then we underestimate what we can do in the long term. Yeah, the 12-week plan chunks it
Oh yeah.
down in realistic steps for the short term periods. Also, can you explain the 4% plan you're talking about? Yes, 100%. So the 4% plan, it's coming up because I know you're an Atlas, Jeffrey, but I'll say what it is. I'll basically explain what it is. It's focusing your energy only on the 4% actions that will move the needle for your business. In other words, 96% of the stuff that you do or we do is a waste of time. So you have to figure out what those 4% actions are. My 4% is pretty easy, and you'll see this in Atlas. I'll give you the example, and you've already experienced part of it, which is going into 2 groups every single day. Actually 3 now because I'll include my Facebook group, but basically spending an hour every day in groups helping and answering questions and also looking for research, always like listening for what people are saying and doing that. So every single day I'm in there for at least 1 hour doing that. This, what I do with Scott, is part of my 4%. We've been doing that for 3 years. We show up every single Tuesday, and this is part of my 4%. And I think that's pretty much it. And then, well, aside from delivering Atlas, but that's pretty much it when it comes to the pre-fluence part of it. So the 4% is part of the pre-fluence. Like, how do you bring people into your world? Scott, do you have any other input on that? Like, with the
Well, you've made
4%?
it pretty simple. Yeah, 4% is where you spend your time doing the most effective. You said it brilliantly. And yeah, this is for me, Tuesday nights are this is part of it. It's putting it out, this knowledge, this wisdom, this education, this ability to brainstorm with a genius in marketing that's, you know, side by side, we've done a lot of things and we get to ping pong and play with things that then go other places. And people do searches and all of a sudden they come up with one of our things in 6 months from now that who even knew it was out there. And that's just, and then of course going into the groups and helping, that's it. There's not that much more that has to be done out there to serve and to bring it into the
Yeah.
3 pillars. Yeah.
That's for like that again. This is for me, like how I'm doing it. You don't have to copy it. The one thing I forgot about is the email. So every week, I'm hopefully emailing 2 or 3 times a week. So that basically takes me an hour each time to email. So if you look at the hours that I'm putting in per day, just on pre-fluence, it's really only a couple of hours per day doing pre-fluence stuff that brings dream clients brings me to dream clients' attention. So you could argue you need to do YouTube channel and be on TikTok and podcasts and all these things, and you would be right. But it's just like, that's not the focus anymore at this point. Maybe now that I want to do a podcast, now for the next 12 weeks, it'll be, how am I going to set this up? How am I going to record, have 12 or 15 or 20 episodes in the can first? Like, and that's where I failed before. It was like trying to do way too many things. So the 4% is what moves the needle in your business right now and is and allowing you to buy back 96% of your time. It's a dual
Joey,
edge.
you mentioned something really important there. And we've said it, we've talked about it. I think it really becomes important here. You said we try and do too many things. And for whatever reason, I think that's a mindset that a lot of people either have been taught or have inherently, that it's like, I got to do all of these things at the same time in order to get there. It's this ferocity of intensity that I got to do all this, rather than stripping out everything that doesn't need to be, so that we can be like, okay, how powerful would it be if you took the tasks one by one, and I'm not going to say perfected them, but pretty much got really good at that, and then moved on to the next one? Where does that come from? And is that a lot about impatience? Is it what's been taught? What are your thoughts on that?
About what? Doing too
Well,
many
about the
things?
the mindset that a lot of people have, I've had it, I still have it, is, I have to really be careful. I mean, now I have people that are like, I'm accountable, self, and others. It's like, I won't do more than I'm doing now because I could. That's part of so it's like boundaries, blinders. How do we not get so out of whack in, but Joey, I gotta get a YouTube, but Joey, I gotta do, I gotta get how do I put them down?
Yeah. Okay. So that comes to the measurement piece. So when people were first starting this with me, they would put down all kinds of things, and I would tell them this, and they'd be like, "Yeah, but I have to, I have to, I have to." And I say, "Okay, great." And for example, build a product and start a YouTube channel. Okay, just those two alone, I know it's really difficult to do in 12 weeks, and get like a following. I'm not just saying start a YouTube channel, because anybody can do that in 3 seconds. That's not what I'm saying. Like, when you're saying start a YouTube channel, it's like you're consistently doing something. Is it once a week? So you're challenging them at the beginning. So the measurement at the end is where it all comes down. It all comes crashing down. So at the end of 12 weeks, they're like, did you start your YouTube channel? Yes, I did. How many followers do you have? How many things did you put out? Well, week number 2, I didn't really put out a video because I go, that's it. Like, there's an excuse. That's not that's the whole point. You were supposed to do this at least once a week. And
Right.
now you're giving an excuse because you were doing research in the product, or you were building your keynote or whatever, right? It's the measurement.
Yeah, I like that. And it's easy to measure one thing, because it's pretty much like, to do research this week. Yeah. How many every day I did? Okay, good. Next. It's because
Yeah. And every single task, like the tactics are all timed. They're all, I'm just going to look at an example here. I wish I could share this screen, but I'm looking at an example here. So 12-week targets. So goal number 1, research market for an email marketing product. Okay. So go to Amazon and pull out the top reviews. Due by January 7th. Research Facebook groups for the top problem. Due January 9th. Okay. So for that goal, for that week, those are the things I'm doing. And there might be a couple of more, but you see, they're very action oriented, and they have a completion date for every single one of those tasks. So if you didn't do it by January 9th, okay, and you started, I don't know, I'm making it up, but maybe January 7th was a Monday, then you've actually wasted. Here's the other mind-blowing thing. I'm pretty sure most of the mathematicians have already figured this out, but when you waste a day, right, you waste a week worth of time.
yeah.
You waste a week's worth of time by wasting a day. And that, when I finally realized that, it was like, wait a minute, this makes way too much sense, and it's really scary, because now you have to really be accountable. And the dates, because I'm notorious for just like, yeah, it's kind of do that date, whatever, and they don't really mean anything. But now, if I know if I'm wasting a whole week's worth of time, everything changes. At least for me.
No, I totally agree with that. I like that. And it's interesting because I've got a client, and in the beginning, it was like, yeah, I want to do this, and this, and that. It's like, how about how about we get the product built first? Nothing else. I don't care about anything else. You just build it, or this thing you want to sell, and not I'm trying to sell it. Stop.
Yep.
And this just really simplifies it because it's like, I don't want you to do anything else but this. And then that's done. Good. Let's do the next thing. And
Yep.
it's easier for them too because it's like we've been trained somewhere along the line to take on as much as we can and be superheroes instead of, I think my former wife said this. She said, why don't you live a small life large instead of a large life small? And it's kind of the same thing here is, why don't you, live a large vision, but do it in these chunks.
Yeah. Just chunk it all the way down. Chunk it all the way down. So this also includes dates and assigned responsibilities. So if you do have teams, you put on that checklist or tactics. Here's the Scott needs to get me the videos by whatever date and whatever it is. Just everything is planned out. And the hard part about this too, I've found is it's at the beginning of the 12 weeks that it really sucks because you have to basically look ahead 12 weeks and say, here's what I'm going to do pretty much every day, and you're going to get it wrong. And that's the other part about this is it's flexible enough for you to say, oh geez, I totally forgot about this piece, and you put it in between your tactics or whatever you're doing for that week, so it's adjustable. However, if you're lazy and you're just like, yeah, it's kind of, I want to build my email list by 300 people, that's what I'm going to do. Well, what are you going to do that? Like every day has to have something, and also there may be repeatable tasks. So if I was doing my thing, where like let's say it was like, well, I want to build my Facebook tribe to 200 people, and I'm the one thing I'm going to go do is go into the two groups and help, and then when somebody wants to reach out, when they reach out to me, and they want to come into my Facebook group, that's what I'll do. That's a repeatable task. I don't have to write it down like every single day. It's just like every single week, it'll be go into Facebook, these two Facebook groups, 1 hour a day, every day. And boom, I know it's there. That's part of the thing. Uh, any, any insight there before we read Jeffrey?
Well, Jeff, did we answer his the 12-week year field guide by Morgan and Lennington? Is that the book?
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, he had
Is
asked
it
that earlier.
12? No, it's called the 12-week. Dude, hang on.
12-week year. While you're doing that, I'm going to read Jeffrey's post. Is that okay?
Yeah, let me put it up on screen.
Oh, I've got it here also. I've learned how to read the comments. I'm
Oh,
getting more
cool. All
advanced
right, cool.
technology stuff. I learned for myself that I really don't know what I want, but I do know what I dream of. If you're laying out a plan to go after your dreams, you feel right from the get go. This is really important to me. You enjoy the process instead of spinning my wheels, feeling debilitated, and finding someone to blame for me not getting what I wanted when I really didn't have a clue what I wanted in the first place. Also, what you start with in plotting out your plan for your dream will look a great deal different when you get the result you're going from. Usually, you get so much better results in relationships built along the way. A wise man here, Joey.
I know. We got a good crew. Um,
Yeah.
I can't find, for some reason, I don't see it here. That's odd. Give me a second. It might be in my Evernote.
And I like what he says here, Joey, about what you start with. You start what you think is the dream, the goal, the vision, and you don't know it yet because you're not there. And along the way, you're like it changes, or you get closer to it, like climbing a mountain. You're like, oh
Yeah.
my God. And you climb it, you get to the top and go, oh, there's a bigger one behind it I can climb now. But I didn't know till I got up here to base camp or to the peak. And it's the
Right.
same thing. But we have to, it's like uh, psycho-cybernetics, Maxwell Maltz. We are several mechanisms, our brains. And once we determine a destination, then our brains start to create how to get there. But pretty much most of the way, we're off course. But we will get there eventually.
Yeah, that's what this is about. It's more um like the big goal is I want to make $1 million, whatever, for the example. And so people who try to plan that out, it's rarely going to work out the way that they've planned. And so the 12-week year allows you to say, well, what's the first thing that I need to do? Build the product. And you're making plans to build the product, you're still probably wrong. But that's where, okay, what's the first thing I need to do to build the product? Well, I don't even know what to sell. Okay, well then maybe I should go do some research.
Yep.
So then
Brilliant.
that might change. You might think, I want to build a product about X. You go in to do the research and like, wait a minute, this is totally different. So that changes the plan immediately. So that's why I love this. It's adaptable.
Yeah.
Um, hang on. I don't know why I can't find the dang thing. But it's not. It's on. Hang on. I'll go to.
While you're looking for that, Joey, I'm just going to go over what I wrote down because when you were talking about the vision and creating goals for 12 weeks, and then you brainstorm it and you figure out what it is, and then
Oh,
you define. Go on.
sorry. He is right. It is by Brian. Brian Moran and Michael Lendington. I'm sorry. My
Okay, cool.
apologies.
No
You're right,
worries.
Jeffrey. So okay, sorry. Go ahead, Scott. You were saying?
Well, I was just kind of giving a quick summation in that when you really do break it down and you define the tactics that you need to achieve that goal, and then you break it down into daily to-dos, and then you measure it and go, huh, did I do this thing to get to here? And I like what you said. It's not only if you waste a day, you waste a week, but then let's go play with time and future and opportunity costs. What does that multiply that? Okay, I screwed around this week and didn't do the thing I said I was going to do. Well, no big deal. I'll do it next week. Well, it is a big deal because that means when I get to future Scott, he's going to go, what was that all about? You know,
Yeah, you've wasted a month doing that.
you're late. That's not acceptable. Go back.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So we'll finish off with this, some final thoughts, which is, oops, let me go back here. Why didn't that work? So final thoughts. Why aren't they working? That's crazy. Let me just do that. Okay. So the life you're currently living is a result of the choices that you've made. And if you blame the outside world, like anything, your parents, your upbringing, the schools, the politicians, you have no control over that. This is what I see a lot of, that so many people blame everything else but themselves. And you can only control how you respond to things. So when you do the 12-week, if you're doing this and you're putting tactics on it and you, like you just said, you just show up and you don't do the work, you're responding to your own accountability, to future Scott, future Joey, future Jeffrey, whatever. You're responding to that in the moment, which is not a good response because you're not doing the thing. And then being accountable, committed is not easy, and it's sometimes very unpleasant. And so one of the things that I'm really trying to be for other people is to help them be comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's part of my genius. Here's how you can be comfortable with being uncomfortable by sharing these things with them. And then as well, if you're serious about the goals, you have to take ownership of your situation. This is the bottom line. And you know, for me, Scott, that's what it's all about. I just like, look, man, I'm going to call you out. Like, this is all you. Like, there's nothing else. And yeah, economy sucks, whatever it is. you lost your job, like whatever. But you know what? You got to take responsibility for everything.
Yep. Wow. Gosh, that was pretty intense, Joey.
Yeah, there was more there. I
Where's
skipped through over a lot of slides, but hopefully this was
there's
helpful.
a lot more there. That's again, once again, that's a whole program in itself.
It is.
There's
Buy the
another,
12-week year book. That's right there for you. I just kind of summarized the
yeah,
book.
that's fantastic. Yeah, what a great resource. And again, Joey, you you don't just consume knowledge. You take it and you deliver it in a way that makes it so much more beneficial for heart-centered people to make their life simpler and build a dream business and a dream life with dream clients. And it just you look at this and it's like, wow, that was pretty powerful.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
Jeffrey says blame is a very short term feel good, and you give your power to someone else. Be accountable and take your power back where it belongs. Exactly. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And
Accountability.
that's the hard part, because if things go wrong, we have no one else to blame, and we don't like blaming ourselves.
Well, I always, I always like to say, I said, if this thing succeeds wildly, congratulations on a good job you did. If it fails, I'll take it all. It's all on me. It's like
Yeah.
it's easier that way. The other day something happened and somebody got some copy, and they got the wrong piece of copy and gave it to somebody, and they're like, well, wasn't this the copy? You said this was the right copy. I said, well, I probably made a mistake. It's not the right copy. This is the right copy. And that was the end of that. And I was like, okay, let's move on. Instead of like, well, no, it was their fault because I gave you the original and you edited that and this and that and that and that. It's like, yeah, I probably blew it.
100%.
Nobody died. All was good. So, yeah.
100%.
Great stuff, Joey. This
Thank you, my
could be a
friend.
2, obviously, or a 3 or 4. Or
Yeah, maybe we'll revisit it again. I appreciate everyone listening. Thank you for being here. Again, hashtag live or hashtag replay if you're watching us, whichever it is. Well, it's hashtag will be replay now because we're just ending the show. But I appreciate you for being here every single Tuesday night. We are here every single Tuesday, like I said, at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hopefully you'll be with us, and we will see you next time.